Hello everyone, this is Breege. Welcome back to another cup of reflectivity and another dance with the Hebrew letters and creation codes. So here we are once again with repeating letters. If you've been following this podcast in sequence, you will be familiar with creation code number 5, Hey, which we talked about last week, and creation code number 8, CHET, which we have been working with for quite a while yet. So both of them are showing up again. But the new letter that I drew today that came in first is the code 14, NUN. And it's perfect that Hey showed up at the bottom of the deck after I had pulled both NUN and CHET, because 14 adds up to 5, so Hey is naturally a component of NUN, at least in the system that I'm familiar with. So let's get into this. Once again, we are still working with our familiar themes here of bridging the spiritual and bringing it into embodiment, into the physical. Of course, that is something that we're constantly working with here as humans. But definitely these times are amplifying our conscious creation in this sense. So the overall themes with NUN and Hey, we're working with a highly inspired energy. This is our soul energy, our soul creativity wanting to flow through us. This is definitely a global theme that we're sitting with as a collective consciousness here on Earth. Breaking down the old, bringing in the new. And of course, we as individuals are making up the collective. So this is where it gets interesting, because sometimes we forget that point. We're looking at the collective and what's going on, and we forget that we are what's making up the collective, and it always starts within us. So let's dive a little deeper today into this whole process that we're in presently, where we are still working with releasing old shackles, old beliefs, energies, emotions. And it feels like stagnant energy that's often quite literally stored in our physical bodies, and very definitely stored in our emotional bodies. And typically that means also in our mental bodies, are now coming up for another chance to be healed and released. And previously I've been getting this image of being wrung out, squeezed out like a sponge to express the last bit of the old watery energy, so that we can be as receptive and absorbent to the new energies that now want to come in. And that is still what I am sensing. We're still expelling the old. And it's a very watery energy. Both NUN and CHET are associated with the water element. And that means they're very emotional, very fluid. That feels to me right now like it doesn't feel very solid. There's not much foundation as of yet to build on. And it can be very confusing at times. Emotions can definitely take us for a ride. But it's also part of our human experience that we're here to work with consciously. Our emotions can be our superpower, as much as they tend to hijack us and take us for a ride that we don't necessarily want to go on, and that might lead to detours or delays in really going for our ultimate goals. So the theme that I'm feeling today has a lot to do with how to work with addressing our emotions while not getting lost in them, taking our inspirations and already starting to bring them into our current reality. And so I got this image of taking our emotional body and anchoring it in to a higher spiritual frequency without trying to ignore or avoid the feelings that are now surfacing for healing. And so this is a delicate dance, and it takes a lot of discernment, because our inclination can be, both CHET and 5 can have a tendency to want to avoid, both in their own unique ways. So with CHET, there might be a tendency to try and overanalyze what's going on with us. So in other words, take it all into our heads, into our mind space, and logic our way through things so that we don't have to feel too much. Or avoid by distracting ourselves in our physical senses. And that can take many different shapes and forms, to the point of addictive and compulsive tendencies. Food, for example, overeating, emotional eating, YouTube videos, gaming, anything that helps us numb out and not be so present with what we're feeling. And can get lost in the dream world, in the spiritual world, in the fantasy realm, and in distractions. So again, the challenge here is to address our feelings and everything that's coming into our awareness without losing ourselves in it. So how do we do that? Let me back this up a little bit. Before I get into how to work with it, I would like to start with how to even become present to what wants to come up. Because again, we can be in such a habit and pattern of avoidance that we don't even recognize what is trying to come up, even if we have an awareness that something is trying to get our attention. And that can be quite physical. CHET can really struggle with digestive issues. That's something that's been going around, I feel, in the collective. Digestive issues. So any kind of physical discomfort, any kind of density emotionally, tiredness, feeling drained, definitely feeling depressed, feeling defeated, discouraged. So let's get back to NUN, since that is the first letter that I drew. NUN is, it's a beautiful, highly spiritual and highly creative code to have. And it also comes with a promise of a reward on the other side of the struggles that we're going through. So it's that high frequency idea that we're here to bring in, whether it's a creative idea, business idea, whatever it is, a message that we're here to deliver. And we talked about that last time, I believe. Is here to vocalize. It's here to open up the throat chakra and express something very unique, typically very creative. Is here to point out things that need to be pointed out. Is here to speak up about things courageously. And that is what I'm feeling here. A lot of us are starting to really more and more get in touch with what wants to be expressed through us. We are feeling this intensity revving up of things that we want to speak out about. Whether that is something collective that we're really feeling the injustice of, or the glaring discrepancies that we want to speak up about that really touch us deep in our core. Or if that is a new idea, something new that we want to bring into this world to help, to be of assistance and of service. Whatever it is, we're starting to feel it more and more loudly within us. But it may not yet be quite clear what exactly it is or how it wants to be expressed through us. Or we may not quite feel we have the courage or the capacity to do so. So that's what we're still working with. And it could be at this point still feeling like an uphill struggle, like we're still pushing something uphill. And we're not yet at the point where we can let it gain its own momentum once we're on the other side of it, where it just gathers up speed and finds its own best way down that hill. So don't be discouraged by this, first and foremost, because these are long-term visions that we are working with now, both collectively, globally, and personally, individually. So again, there are no shortcuts here. And if you find yourself getting frustrated and looking for the easy way out, stop, pause, take a deep breath, and reconnect with your bigger vision. And also reconnect again with what is now pushing up into your consciousness that still needs to be released. Coming back full circle to my earlier message here. So NUN can help us by being a perfect reflector. So use the mirror images in your immediate environment to get to an opportunity to see yourself and your present issues and patterns more clearly. Sometimes it really, really helps to get that reflection from the outside, because we all have blind spots. We're too intimate with ourselves. We're too close up to really see ourselves clearly at times. So look around and use your life, use your relationships, your connections, your circumstances as a mirror reflection. So for example, look at your life right now. And especially everything that you're not quite happy about and that you feel is not fully satisfactory yet. All the ways in which it still falls short of your bigger vision if you're already tapped into your bigger vision. And so by looking at your current life situation, especially where it's not yet quite fulfilling, you can then trace this back to the belief, the story that must be at the core of it. So in other words, you trace this image on the movie screen back to the projector in your inner higher mind, to see what's playing out there. What's the script playing out in your unconscious that creates your current reality? I hope that makes sense. So what must be the belief that you're still holding in order to create your current reality? So we talked about a lack mentality last time. A lot of us are feeling that financial pressure really amping up. But whether it's financial or a sense of a lack of love or a lack of freedom, whatever it is that you're sensing right now that's not quite yet sitting right, look at the core belief so that you can get a clearer image of what it is that you're still working with to heal it. Where is this belief coming from? And how can you sit with that in order to heal it so that you can then rewrite the script? And this works especially well with relationships, because especially the intimate relationships, they provide such rich mirrors and reflections for us. So anything that we get triggered by, whether that's in the bigger world outside or in our intimate relationships, is an indication of something that still needs healing in us. Anything that we still judge in others or in the world is something that we're still judging within us, that's still not healed within us. So again, use your mirrors to the best of your ability. And drop a comment if that's not quite clear to you yet, because this is a theme that's very close to my heart, and I am really working with that and diving deeper into it in workshops coming up. So let me know if you'd like more information about that. I'd love to get more into this topic. But for the purpose of this podcast here, to keep it brief, use your mirrors to the best of your ability to get insights about your own inner stories that are still playing out, your own inner hurts that still want attention and healing, so that you can really dive into it. Again, coming back to CHET, we don't want to ignore our feelings. We don't want to ignore the discomfort that we're sensing on any level, because it's here right now with a message, and it is another chance of healing and creating space, letting go of the old so we can make room for the new. So, as I was starting to say earlier, the way that helps me to work with this energy is to ask myself, where can I sense this, whatever the issue is that I'm sitting with, whatever emotions that I'm sitting with, patterns, anything that I've become aware of, where am I holding that in my body? And don't overthink this. Just listen. Just take a deep breath and very quietly listen to your body. And again, don't overthink this. Just go with whatever comes up. There's no right or wrong. Your body will guide you. So whether it's showing up in your left big toe, or it's showing up in your gut, or somewhere in your right shoulder, or on your head, whatever area is being highlighted to you, breathe into that area, become present with it, and just let it inform you. That can take different nuances. You could become aware of the emotions that you're holding in there. If so, please make room for those emotions. Let them come up. Vocalize them if you can. If that might just be humming, or crackling your voice, or screaming or crying. If that wants to come up, please let it. It might also be a tension that you're sensing, or a pain, or just a discomfort. Whatever it is, you just hold space for it without judging it and without trying to make it go away. That's important. Create space for it to be there. Accept it. Be grateful for it, because it's literally a messenger here with a very important message. So honor it as such. And don't shoot the messenger, just listen to it. And then just follow the energy. Just breathe into that body part. And often it starts to shift and move around. Either emotions shift, maybe visions come up, insights might come up around what's going on. Or you're just following a sensation that's moving through your body. Whatever it is that's present for you, just stay with it, be with it, breathe into it, relax into it, honor it. And that is a big part of your healing. And ask yourself what you need. What's your big need right now? That's really important. And I talked about that in previous podcasts as well. If we're not conscious of our needs, how can we ever express them? And how can we set appropriate boundaries? And that is still a theme as well with CHET and Hey. Both of those beautiful codes do not come with built-in boundaries. They're wide open. They're very empathic, very psychic, wide open to all of the energies floating around in the collective. And so we do need boundaries. We need to make space to decompress, to make sense of everything that's coming into our energy field so that we can sort through it, make sense of it, or just let go of what doesn't belong to us. So it's really important to sit with that. And by becoming aware of our needs, by becoming aware of our true innate energy and claiming that space, honoring that space, to start setting more healthy boundaries. Very important in going forward. Again, collectively as well as individually. Because as much as we are still in the process of letting go of the old, we're also already in the stage of bringing in the new in the form of visions to begin with. What is our higher vision that we want to bring in collectively? How do we want to create a new society that is now rapidly falling apart? What do we want to bring into our personal lives? What's important to us? What kind of relationships do we want to have? What's healthy now for our new version of self? Right? So we need to sit with that first and become really clear of what that new energy is that we're wanting to bring in and what our needs are currently while we're still in the in-between stage. We're not there yet. We haven't fully left the old. We haven't fully entered the new. And so there are very specific needs that come with us. And can we just honor that instead of trying to be perfect already? Can we just honor where we're at? Sometimes we just need a little extra space. Sometimes we just need a lot of support. Can we ask for that? So this is, and I keep emphasizing that, this is such a potent time right now for huge major shifts and changes. Our collective is ripe and ready for a change. And again, we are what's making up our collective. And a lot of you listening to these podcasts are probably those of you who feel called to bring in the new energies, the new paradigm shifts. More love, more compassion, more fairness, more spiritual ideals. And you are needed. There is a very unique voice that wants to speak through you, a very unique message, a very unique creation that wants to come through you. And this is the time of receiving it, incubating it, and starting the process of embodying it. And again, it is a long-term vision. Let's take our time with this and do this thoroughly. No cutting corners. Have patience with it. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Right now it is very uncomfortable. Collectively, individually. As we're letting go of the old, it feels wobbly. Like there's no real grounding in structures that were man-made. And that's all right. So where do we find our own individual grounding now in the higher spiritual concepts without using that to bypass our human physical experience? That's the question here. What is it that you can anchor into, ground into, to find yourself balanced, to help you come back to your own inner center and inner peace? And to hold on to the vision that is now coming in. And that gives you that longevity and persistence to see this through, even through all the possibly perceived setbacks, which are really not setbacks in my view, but they certainly can feel like it as we're spiraling once again around old themes that maybe we thought we had already dealt with, and here they are again. Just another layer, right? We've been talking about that. So another thing that came up as I was sitting, I'm sorry, this will be a longer podcast, I feel, but it came in so strongly today that I really want to take the time with this. As we're sitting with our sensitivities and inner hurts and our inner needs that can make us feel very vulnerable. And there's a real intensified need to communicate that with the people in our lives, the people that are close to us, whether that is to set boundaries or just to let them know where we're at. And right now it feels like there can be a tendency to be a little bit overreactive. So watch how you are expressing yourself, if you are expressing yourself to another, because NUN can have a tendency to be scathing and a little bit harsh in the way that it expresses itself at times. There can be a very negative and stuck energy. And if you find yourself in that, just again, acknowledge it, have patience with it, have compassion with yourself. It's just old energies breaking through. And if you can sit with it and tune into where it is showing up in your body perhaps, and how you can breathe your way through it, either gently, or sometimes it really helps to really intensify that breath and make it a fire breath to burn through whatever is stuck in you. Give NUN the freedom to express itself honestly, to assert itself, but as much as you can, bring compassion into it. And even if that is just prefacing your communication with that with that warning that look, I'm very tender right now, I'm very vulnerable, and I feel a little volatile, so I'm just going to do my best to express myself honestly here, and I might get a little intense, because NUN gets intense. And just to let whoever you're talking with know to not take anything personally, and then to do your best to not make your communication personal. Not make it about the other person. Yes, they might be a mirror for you by being a pretty darn good trigger and showing you things about yourself you don't necessarily like. But don't make it about them. Don't make it about them. Take it back inward to your projector. So this is a tender ground to navigate right now. It's a beautiful invitation, really. A really, really beautiful invitation. And it feels like the volume is really being amped up, so that we have to pay attention and we can't ignore the issues that are still wanting to be addressed within us. And that's really what it feels like. We're at the stage of pulling out the roots so that we can then plant our garden without the old weeds coming up. And if you are someone who's always felt like they had such a hard time fitting into the mainstream narrative, know that your time is coming. Your time is coming for your message to come through. And again, you might have always felt like there was something that you were here to bring to society. A big message, a big service, and maybe you've never had a full clarity of what that really was. And this is the time when you will get your clarity. So again, use this time right now to go dig deep, look at your life, use those mirror reflections, not only to see where you still need healing, but also look at what's speaking to you, what's calling to you, what's important to you, because that is your message about what you're here to address in this lifetime, your inner calling. So, just to recap the main themes that we talked about today, it's an intense time. Right now, the volume is really being amped up. It's really becoming more and more necessary to learn to set our boundaries, energetically speaking, because a lot of you empaths can really feel that overwhelm from tuning into the collective. There's so much going on right now, and it can be very difficult to navigate this. So learn to work with your energies and learn to set your boundaries in your personal life, but also energetically in a larger sense. Grounding. What helps you to ground? Get out into nature. Tune into your body. Eat the right foods. And also I'm really feeling that sense of grounding by really tapping into your bigger vision and keeping that bigger picture view so that you don't lose sight while you're still pushing everything uphill and the going gets tough, because we can get lost in our daily struggles. So as much as you can, keep stepping back to keep an eye on the bigger vision so that you can keep grounding into that. Very important right now. Don't give in to the desire for a quick fix or instant gratification. Hold the line. Stay strong. Take it one step at a time. Chunk it down into the little elements, into what you can do right now. And if there's nothing to do yet, into just being with it and allowing it to incubate and show you what and how it wants to be birthed when it's time. Tune into your needs. Have compassion with yourself and with others, and with our collective situation. Have patience with it. But also, if there is something within you that already feels like it's ready to be expressed and be spoken, to be pointed out, trust that you are the right vessel to bring this message through. And if you feel the time is now, trust that. Trust that. There will be ways in which you can already start speaking up if you feel that impulse. It doesn't mean that it won't keep growing and shifting and changing. But if you feel that impulse strongly and you get a glimpse of how you can take this next step, please go for it. Don't hold back, because we need your voice. Again, we are the collective. Every single one of us are a part of it, and we're here to help shift and change it. So, apologies for the length of this podcast. I feel I've talked enough, and I really hope that you're getting some value out of this, and that it helps you to stay centered and focused on the bigger vision, because this is a crucial time. In my senses, we will be talking about these same themes for quite a while yet to come. So thank you everyone for being with me, tuning in, and please let me know how you're doing, where you're at, and what else you would like to see from me, because I'm here to serve just as you are. Take care everyone. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.